Today is October 20th, Sunday, and it has been more or less 4 months since we last filmed our chickens on the move. Dan is already starting the process of taking down their water bottles and moving their perch, but I thought we would just look around at the yard in the early autumn. It is getting much cooler around now, and which is nice after a very, very hot summer, and after celebrating 2 weddings with Meredith and Jose in Mexico City and Lauren and Brian here on July 20th. So a lot has happened since we filmed in May 28th, I believe was the last time, and we're ready now to start moving the hutch. So are you all set? Dad's ready to make the move. Here comes Dad. And we've had trouble with our perch structure. It seems to kind of come unhinged, understandably so, with the weight of a dozen very plump hens, and so it periodically collapses. We have thought of a solution after doing the bungee cord ties, which haven't worked really well. Dan was thinking our Gorilla Glue, which we use for different purposes, and it always seems to hold. So we were going to try, rather than using some of the more toxic adhesives, we thought maybe Gorilla Glue would be the solution. So here are our hens, and they've had a good summer. They were present for Lauren and Brian's wedding. They were off kind of in obscurity in the corner of our yard. People were able to still see them, but they weren't in the prime garden area. And because we had, needless to say, children running around in the yard, and given that the chickens tend to muck things up, we didn't want a lot of traffic through where they had been, so we put them over there by the Johnson apple tree and the pear tree, and that worked out well. So Dan is still moving. He's had to add some of the ties to the chicken wire just about 2 weeks ago, because again, through moving it and time, the chicken wire gets a little loose, and so that's just kind of a necessary adjustment. But you can see Dan and the chickens. So there they are, and he's readjusting the little perch. He has it propped up in the center with just a wooden beam to elevate it. The other day I saw some portable chicken coop over at Dan's Boots and Saddle, and they were definitely for your weekend chicken aficionado who just wants a very, very stylish chicken coop. They were about 3-4 feet tall and about 6 feet long, and so needless to say, a lot smaller, a lot shorter than ours. You obviously could never get inside a chicken coop of those dimensions, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why we like this one. Also, it gives the chickens plenty of room to run around. They have definitely started slowing down their egg production, and we're not quite sure why, given the change of the season and also the well, the lowering temperatures. Or are our chickens headed for the proverbial chopping block? And Dan has, needless to say, said he's willing, ready, and able to get a very sharp hatchet and one of those specialized combs and, you know, start burning wood to boil some water to pluck their little feathers. Will we really do this? Hard to say. We talk a lot about it, but it's unlikely, but still within the realm of possibilities. So because they are very plump and they are getting up in months, and so especially the buff Orpingtons, they're always described as layers slash meat chickens. So we'll see. And there goes Dan. I'm not quite sure what he's getting there in the back in the compost. Our garden over here, meanwhile, had mixed results. For the wedding, everything was in full blossom, and it definitely looks alive and well right now. As you can see, the girasoles, the Jerusalem artichokes slash sunchokes, are about, hard to say, about 12 feet high. So much taller than they were last season. So we're kind of thinking that they might have even more sunchokes. And coincidentally, in our vegetarian magazine this month, they had some great recipes for sunchoke chips and pickled Jerusalem artichokes and artichoke salad. So just a variety of things that we can do with our sunchokes. So we'll be harvesting them probably in the near future. We're going to give them a little bit more time. If the height is any indication, it seems like we're going to have many more than we had last year. But we'll see. So, that's what Dan was doing. He was getting some twigs to insert in the PVC piping for the little perch. So, are you still going to use the Gorilla Glue, honey?
Yeah.
So,
maybe not today, but
okay, so Gorilla Glue is still an option. Dan just was putting sticks in to make it a little snugger. What happens is that they all get on, needless to say, at night to perch, and that's when I think things start to tumble. But again, they have a new fresh patch of grass, and they continue to be very, very happy hens. I think it's the space, it's having fresh grass every week that keeps them healthy and happy. Over here, just real quick, I don't know if you can see,
I was gonna fix
but we have,
Kool-a-Roo with
okay,
cable ties.
okay, so again we have amaranth that just was voluntarily reseeding and growing here behind the grape arbor. That's kind of a nice surprise. And then we had amaranth along our ditch. We'll go take a look at that in a minute. But here is Dan, and he's has some of the ties. They're technically electrician ties for tying up wires, cables. So that's what we use. And the Kool-a-Roo had become, I guess, loose, and so Dan is having to strap it down so it doesn't flail in the wind. And And then they're about 8 to 10 inches long, so what Dan has to do is trim them. And so we'll just take a look right here. And so he's getting that situated. The Kool-a-Roos have turned out to be very nice because they did winter over and and they did keep the chickens dry in many a rainstorm. Everyone in Albuquerque will not forget the fearsome 80-mile-an-hour winds that we had on July 26th, a week after Lauren and Brian's wedding. Large branches from our trees fell down. Branches from next door, the willow tree came crashing down. So we had branches everywhere. And needless to say, the chicken coop did well with these hurricane force winds. And everything did well, the Kool-a-Roos and just the entire structure. But we will probably be putting on that heavier tarp when temperatures start to drop below freezing. That seemed to have helped them. And it covers one side of the chicken coop, so they still get plenty of airflow, but yet they have that protection of a heavy tarp. So Dan is still working there, as you can see, tying down the Kool-a-Roo, and then we can look over here while he does that. See, the Jerusalem artichoke is way up there, and then let's go look over here at our amaranth along the ditch. This is the channel that we trenched out with the rototiller, and it's hard to tell now, but it was 2 feet wide. Well, it's still 2 feet wide. It's just covered with grass, and then we have our granite little crossing bridges, which are very handy, especially when there's water. The water has significantly diminished at this point in the season. There might be water today, but it's probably very little. The Middle Rio Grande Conservancy did cut off the water in early, it was early July that we stopped getting water, but then they started releasing water when we started getting more precipitation, and so that really helped the garden. So we have amaranth growing along, and we have our some corn, some beans that managed to survive. I think we'll have to plot this out better. This past summer was somewhat hectic, and so things just kind of grew as they did. Let's take a look back over here at the chicken coop. Looks like Dan finished. And our compost pile, we haven't shown you that for a while. It's going great. It's, again, a nice improvement because it's very wide and low, so everything can decompose, I think, a lot more efficiently because it's just a nice area. And then we do have some Peruvian potatoes and red potatoes growing in the depths of the garden. It's hard to tell because everything is kind of covered with amaranth. The amaranth really took off. We gave quite a bit away, and then we mowed a lot of it down because it was growing everywhere. So, and it isn't as large as it was last year, which is interesting because we mentioned that the artichokes are much larger than they were last year, but the amaranth is not. We don't have the enormous stalks we had last year. I think they're just so overgrown together. That's why we haven't gotten the same height as before. We have been getting tomatoes, and there are still tomatoes on the vine that we can harvest, more green tomatoes. So that's nice. But again, the garden takes time, and we still need to figure out how to spend time with work and everything else, and just a balance. So I don't see Dan right here, but you can see the chickens foraging in their new digs, because they do start digging. Something that they love is, even though the grass is so thick, because it's that Bermuda variety, they actually dig to have a little dirt bath. Oh, Dan's bringing them some fresh popcorn. And popcorn and old bread is just a real treat. So you can see that, this is going to be devoured in a moment. And they love popcorn. And this was just some leftover we had. But there they are. A dozen happy hens. And we're not sure why, but one of the black rocks that was getting henpecked by, oh, who knows, it was probably a buff Orpington, has stopped being henpecked, and we don't know why. She's grown some under feathers, some little fluffy feathers, and she looks a lot better. We were putting on some ointment to help her, but who knows if that helped. What's more important is that she's no longer getting pecked. So they are chowing down on the popcorn, and so that'll be their big highlight for the day, because we haven't cut a melon or something that they really like, which is juicy. So again, let's just walk around the yard, and we will be moving the chicken coop in the middle of both gardens. The garden with more of the amaranth over there, and then we will be moving them over here where we had some chard and a lonely stalk of corn. I don't quite know why we only had one stalk. So we'll be moving them right in here in the middle. And you can see the cherry tree. We didn't have as many cherries this year either, because we had a late frost. So each season, is always a surprise, and we keep thinking of ways to be more productive with our garden and chickens. So let's just go over here. It sounds like Dan is filling up the food bin for the chickens. They're in the cat's room. And there's just the benches and patio. This all worked really well for the wedding dance. We still have the decorative Christmas lights up. We like the way they look, so they're still up. And we can turn them on at night. It's a little too cold to come out dancing now, but kind of a fun idea. So I think, again, there you have it. An update on the chicken coop on Sunday, October 20th. And as always, wishing all the very best, and take care, and always feel free to call. until the next time that we should be harvesting our artichokes, and we'll keep you posted. Take care. Bye-bye.